The drone swarm apocalypse: how cheap autonomous warfare could reshape civilization. Introduction: the return of scalable destruction. For most of modern history, advanced warfare increasingly became associated with technological sophistication, centralized military power, and enormously expensive platforms. Nations measured strength through aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, advanced fighter jets, nuclear submarines, satellite systems, and precision-guided missiles. Military superiority appeared to belong primarily to countries capable of sustaining massive industrial and scientific infrastructure. Air power especially became a symbol of elite strategic dominance; the sky belonged to the technologically advanced. However, the emergence of cheap autonomous drones has begun destabilizing this model in many ways. Many military institutions were psychologically and structurally unprepared for. The rise of drone swarms represents more than a technological evolution. It represents a fundamental economic transformation in warfare itself. The core danger is not merely that drones can destroy targets. The deeper threat is that they may fundamentally alter the relationship between offense and defense. Historically, large-scale offensive capability requires massive economic investments. Modern drone warfare partially collapses this barrier. Relatively inexpensive autonomous systems can now threaten critical infrastructure, naval assets, urban centers, logistic hubs, and air defense networks at costs dramatically lower than those required to defend against them. This creates one of the most dangerous strategic imbalances of the 21st century: cheap, scalable offense confronting expensive, finite defense. This imbalance matters because wars are not won exclusively through tactical brilliance or isolated technological superiority. Wars are ultimately contests of sustainability. The side capable of maintaining pressure while exhausting the opponent's resources often gains long-term advantage. Drone swarms weaponize this principle directly. They transform industrial scale, algorithmic coordination, and economic attrition into strategic instruments. The modern battlefield is therefore entering a new phase defined not by missiles and aircraft, but by autonomous ecosystems of machines capable of persistent, scalable pressure. The implications extend far beyond military doctrine. They reach into economics, geopolitics, urban security, industrial policy, infrastructure resilience, artificial intelligence, and the future of stability of civilization itself. The collapse of traditional air power assumptions. For more than a century, air superiority depended on concentrated industrial capability. States seeking meaningful aerial dominance required expensive aircraft production, elite pilot training, sophisticated maintenance systems, advanced fuel logistics, large-scale air bases. Fighter aircraft bombers represented immense national investments. This created natural barriers to entry. Only powerful industrial states could maintain sustained air power projection. Drone warfare changes this assumption because it lowers the economic threshold required for strategic disruption. Many drones rely partially on commercially available electronics, modular assembly methods, relatively inexpensive engines, satellite navigation systems, and scalable production techniques. While sophisticated military drones still require advanced infrastructure, the broader category of low-cost autonomous systems dramatically reduces the cost of aerial participation in warfare. This doesn't eliminate traditional military superiority. Advanced air force remain enormously powerful. However, drone warfare complicates their dominance by introducing scalable asymmetric pressure. A relatively weak actor may now threaten expensive infrastructure without needing equivalent conventional military power. This partially the, democratizes aerial warfare. The critical transformation is economic rather than purely technological. Historically, attacking strategic infrastructure required costly manned aircraft, large missile inventories, or sophisticated conventional forces. Now, relatively cheap autonomous systems may achieve meaningful disruption capability. This changes deterrence calculations globally because weaker actors can impose disproportionate cost on stronger opponents. As a result, traditional military planners increasingly face an uncomfortable reality. Technological sophistication alone no longer guarantees sustainable defensive superiority. Cheap, scalable systems exploit the economies of defense itself. The economics of attritional drone warfare. The defining strategic characteristics of modern drone warfare is the imbalance between offensive and defensive costs. A relatively inexpensive drone may force the defender to expend interceptor missiles, costing many times more. This cost asymmetry creates cumulative economic pressure during prolonged conflict. Consider the broader logic involved. If the attacker spends modest resources launching autonomous swarms while the defender expends extremely expensive missiles, radar operations, maintenance cycles, and logistical support to intercept them, the defender may gradually experience financial and industrial strain, even while successfully destroying most incoming threats. This introduces the concept of cost implosion warfare. The objective is not necessarily immediate destruction. Instead, the attacker seeks to force economically irrational defensive responses over time. This transforms warfare into a contest of industrial endurance. Historically, attritional warfare favored the side capable of sustaining production longest. Industrial capacity determined outcomes in many large-scale conflicts because prolonged war consumed material in extraordinary rates. Drone warfare revives the industrial logic under modern technological conditions. Missile inventories deplete rapidly. Interceptor production requires advanced manufacturing chains. Radar systems requires maintenance. Operational fatigue accumulates. Defensive expenditure increases continuously. Meanwhile, many drones remain comparatively cheap to produce. Quantity therefore becomes strategically meaningful. The attacker may willingly sacrifice large number of drones because the true objective lies in exhausting defensive systems economically and psychologically. This changes military calculus fundamentally. A drone itself may not represent primary weapon. The real weapon may be the economic strain and systematic pressure it imposes on the defender. Quantity as a strained weapon. One of the oldest military truths in history is that quantity possesses independent strategic value. Modern drone swarm rediscover this principle technologically. Traditional air defense systems were often optimized to intercept relatively limited numbers of high-value threats, such as aircrafts or ballistic missiles. Autonomous swarms alter the mathematics entirely. A defense system may successfully destroy dozens of incoming drones. However, saturation attacks involve hundreds or thousands of autonomous systems strain finite defensive capability. Every defense network possesses limitations: finite ammunition, finite radar tracking capacity, finite interceptor inventories, finite reaction speed, finite operator endurance. Swarms warfare exploits these limitations systematically. The significance of drone swarms lies not merely in the destruction capability, but in their scalability. Cheap drones can be mass produced in enormous numbers. Once weapons become sufficiently inexpensive and autonomous, they begin functioning less as traditional aircraft and more like industrial ammunition. This changes commander behavior. Expensive systems are treated carefully because losses are strategically painful. Cheap drones, by contrast, may be intentionally expendable. Commanders may sacrifice swarms to reveal radar positions, exhaust interceptors, overwhelm defenses, or create openings for follow-on attacks. The battlefield therefore shifts from precision engagement towards scalable saturation pressure. Quantity itself becomes a weapon. The return of anti-aircraft warfare guns and layered defenses. Ironically, the rise of futuristic drone warfare has revived interest in relatively old defensive concepts. Anti-aircraft guns are returning to prominence because economics increasingly matter more than technological glamour. Systems such as rapid-fire autocannons, close-in weapon systems, programmable air-burst munitions provide comparatively cheap interception capability against drones. These systems often combine radar guidance, automated targeting, and fragmentation ammunition to destroy incoming aerial threats at short range. The strategic appeal is simple: guns are cheaper per engagement than advanced missile interceptors. Modern militaries increasingly recognize that no single defensive layer is sufficient. Missiles only defense may become economically unsustainable under prolonged swarm attack drone conditions. As a result, layered defensive architectures are emerging: long-range missile interceptors, medium-range defensive systems, rapid-fire guns, electronic warfare, lasers, autonomous interceptor drones. This layered model reflects an old strategic reality. Sustainable defense requires diversified defensive ecosystems rather than dependence on single elite technologies. The return of anti-aircraft guns demonstrates a recurring pattern in military history. Technologies rarely disappear completely. Instead, battlefield conditions change their relevance. Drone warfare has created an environment where relatively inexpensive close-range defenses regain strategic importance. The militarization of urban space. Future megacities may become extraordinarily vulnerable environments under autonomous swarm warfare. Modern urban civilization depends on interconnected infrastructure systems such as electricity, communications, transportations, finance, data centers, logistic networks, ports, energy grids. Drone swarms threaten all of these simultaneously. Urban defense creates several complications because cities contain dense civilian populations. Vertical train complexity, radar interference, and signal clutter. Low-flying drones can exploit buildings for concealment. Interception risks falling debris. Defensive systems must operate carefully with densely populated environments. This may force the militarization of urban infrastructure itself. Future cities could require distributed sensory networks, rooftop interceptor systems, AI-controlled defensive grids, laser batteries, electronic jamming infrastructure, autonomous patrol drones. The distinction between civilian and military infrastructure may increasingly blur because modern societies depend on interconnected systems vulnerable to scalable aerial disruption. Urban defenses may therefore become one of the defining security challenges of future civilization. Algorithmic warfare and machine speed conflict. The future battlefield may increasingly operate beyond direct human reaction speed. Autonomous speed possesses the ability to identify threats, allocate targets, coordinate movement, and adapt behavior in real time. As swarms scale upward, human operations struggle to process information rapidly enough. This creates machine speed warfare. Future conflicts may involve algorithms competing against algorithms rather than humans directly controlling every engagement. Victory may depend partly on software architecture, AI training quality, sensory fusion capabilities, and computational speed. This introduces dangerous escalation dynamics. Human hesitation historically prevented numerous catastrophes. Autonomous systems may operate according to optimization, optimization logic rather than political caution or emotional restraint. Once warfare accelerates beyond human cognitive management, escalation itself risks becoming partially automated. Additionally, algorithmic warfare creates new vulnerabilities. Cyber attacks, signal spoofing, AI manipulation, false target generation, communication disruption. The future battlefield therefore extends beyond physical destruction into informational and computational competition. Industrial resilience and the return of total war logic. Drone warfare reconnects military strength with industrial capacity. Sustained conflict increasingly depends on manufacturing scale, electronics production, supply chain resilience, energy sustainability, AI development capability, infrastructure survivability. This resembles older industrial warfare more than contemporary military doctrines anticipated. For years, many advanced militaries prioritized small numbers of elite precision systems. Drone warfare exposes the vulnerability of insufficient scale. War consumes ammunition, missiles, drones, and electronic systems rapidly. Replenishment speed becomes strategically critical. Future conflicts may therefore reward societies capable of sustaining large-scale industrial production under pressure. Economic resilience becomes inseparable from military resilience. This transforms warfare into systematic competition. The side capable of maintaining industrial continuity while degrading the opponent's infrastructure may gain decisive long-term advantage. The psychological dimensions of autonomous warfare. Drone warfare also creates persistent psychological pressure. Unlike traditional aircraft, autonomous systems can maintain continuous low-level threat presence. Swarms may appear repeatedly, unpredictably, and across wide geographic areas. This creates strategic fatigue. Constant alerts, continuous surveillance, infrastructure vulnerability, and uncertainty gradually erode social confidence and economic stability. Even unsuccessful attacks may produce significant psychological effects. Future adversaries may exploit this deliberately. Exhaustion itself becomes a strategic weapon. The objective may not always be immediate destruction, but long-term destabilization through continuous low-cost harassment. This blurs the line between war and peace. Persistent autonomous conflict may become normalized beneath conventional war thresholds. Conclusion: the return of scalable power. The rise of autonomous drone swarms represents one of the most significant transformations in modern warfare. The danger doesn't lie solely in the drones themselves, but in the economic, industrial, and algorithmic systems they enable. Cheap, scalable offense now pressurizes expensive, finite defenses. Quality and quantity once again become strategically meaningful. Industrial endurance returns to the central of warfare. Artificial intelligence accelerates battlefield decision cycles. Infrastructure vulnerability expands dramatically. Urban space becomes militarized. Autonomous systems increasingly challenge traditional assumptions about military dominance. The future battlefield may not belong exclusively to the most technologically sophisticated power. It may belong to the side capable of sustaining scalable autonomous pressure while maintaining industrial resilience longer than its opponents. This is the deeper logic of the drone swarm age, not merely machines in the sky, but economies weaponized through automation, scale, and attrition. And if these trends continue accelerating, humanity may soon enter an era where the sky no longer belongs primarily to human pilots, but to vast interconnected ecosystems of autonomous machines competing continuously above the infrastructure of civilization itself.